Hey everybody. I was gonna make a nice fancy video about, Collei and her portion of the Genshin Impact webtoon, but I haven't been able to sit down and write a script, and 3.5 is going to happen like in a couple hours. My game is frozen. So I figured I would just talk about it. And there we go. While I do my dailies, basically. Because a lot of you will end up seeing these dailies anyway, and well, if this keeps me distracted enough that I could sit down and actually do something, like talk about what I wanted to talk about, that's good enough for me. All right, so I had been rereading the webtoon last night, starting with the Mondstat portion of the story. And the reason why that's really important to event 3.5 is that Collei's finally going back to Mondstat. She's finally going to see Amber and Kaya and Jean and Lisa, that people that she knows. And like, speaking of Mondstadt, but this is like a big deal because the webtoon, though I had had ideas that it was canon, there was always that doubt that it was going to be counted as not 100% canon, just kind of like partially canon. So this may confirm a lot of the stuff that we saw in that manga slash webtoon of Genshin Impact, where we first meet Collei and we first meet Amber and all the people from Knights of Favonius. One of the things that I kind of had noticed as I had gone back was that this starts out with Dottore and one of his underlings named Krupp, Mr. Krupp, Mr. Krupp, Krupp. I don't know. I'm going to call him Krupp. Mr. Krupp going to Mondstat looking for humans to experiment on. Now, if you didn't think that Dottore was fucked up before, you better bet your butter that he's fucked up. Yeah. You'll see what I mean eventually if you read that webtoon. Basically, they went back to Mondstat to ask for some recruits, in air quotes, which actually was just them looking for kids to experiment on. And right off the bat, it seemed like Kaya knew what they were doing. And so did D-Luke, because D-Luke insisted that he sit in on this meeting that happened between Dottore, Krupp, Seamus, who is Seamus, a character we don't really see again, who apparently is like the guy in the Knights of Favonius that kind of deals with civil and domestic things, according to the definition of his title. And he, kind of was somebody that they went to ask, hey, well, how about you, give us some recruits for our protection because we're friends, eh? And then Kaya and D-Luke are like, nobody, this ain't happening. And Krupp and Dottore were disappointed. Dottore violently pissed off. And that kind of starts our little foray into, this adventure in Mondstadt. As we all know, Collei has Elazar, and in the manga, it's presented as this girl's been touched by the plague. The knights at the gates of the gates of the city kind of want to turn her away, because she's diseased, and they don't want the disease spreading through Mondstadt, which is kind of shitty. I'm gonna be honest. You're supposed to be the city of freedom who welcomes everybody, and you guys are turning away a child because she's sick. And though I know, they don't know what causes the disease or why, it is, kind of against the rules of Mondstadt, if I remember correctly, to deny somebody entry into the city for any reason. I didn't even look at what time they wanted me to go to. I was just like, let's do it. Let's time skip. Because I'm talking. But, they refused Collei at the gates. And her, with these powers she's been given due to being experimented on by Dottore, allows her to summon a snake of black flames that devours the cart partially, but the Fatui officials in the cart completely. Now, this starts to a long line of wondering who's responsible. Because, of course, the Fatui are like, you've done this horrible thing by letting our diplomats get marked in your city. We need an explanation. All the while, nobody really knowing who it was except for Kaya, who saw Collei run into the city. And though he didn't know who that was or, what they were there for, she immediately became a person of interest because her entry aligned with the death of those Fatui diplomats. Lo and behold, she is responsible and honestly is running around the city lost, only to run into Amber, who is like, oh my gosh, a lost child, I must help. And thus the two of them have met. And Amber tries her best to make Collei feel at home and welcomed. Meanwhile, Collei is still in her I don't trust anybody phase because she's been through a lot, as you can imagine. Not only was she given to the Fatui by her parents because they didn't know how to help her, and instead of, listening to her when she was like, don't do this to me, I'm scared, they just threw her away, gave her to a stranger, and she ended up in Dotore's care with the rest of the children that they had taken and experimented on. That being said, Collei is quite the survivor. She has quite the will to live. And she shows throughout her, journey in Mondstat, she doesn't want, as much as she thinks she wants revenge, what she really wants is to survive, to be cured, to live a normal life. And she knows that she won't have that opportunity as she is. The other unfortunate thing is that she can't read. So, her adventure in Mondstat, she's looking for a cure for something to fix her, but she can't figure out any clues as to either, get revenge on Dottore or cure herself, because she can't read any of the materials in the library, but she knows that books have her answer, or at least she thinks she does. Amber ends up running into Jean and Lisa, and those two meet Collei. And Lisa and Jean offer to help. Though, the first concern from Jean is like, oh, we can't clean books if you get something on them. But, we can't turn her away. But Lisa's like, it's fine. Sun also purifies toxins. Sort of they kind of, Jean is cautious and Lisa is Lisa. But they embody the principles of Mondstat, which is you don't turn away strangers. You don't turn away outsiders, people you don't know just because you don't know them. You help them. You treat them like you would want to be treated because Mondstadt is the city of freedom. And, the god of the wind would do anything for his people, whether they be from Mondstadt or from elsewhere, and have come to Mondstadt. So, they offer to help. And, unfortunately, kind of get sidetracked by, the thing they're supposed to be investigating, which is, the Fatui diplomats, murder. That Collei is like, oh, I did that, and I don't want them to know I did that because, I don't want to get caught, and also, they're kind of being nice to me, but she doesn't really show that she understands that this is actual genuine kindness, and she's just kind of like, they're only nice to me because they don't know who I am. And once they realize who I am, they'll hate me. Surprise, surprise, they don't at the end of this. But I kind of have to backtrack a little bit just for a second and talk about how Dottore and what Dottore is doing basically in the background, in the shadows. Because Amber sees something on the documents that were partially burned in the fire on the Fatui cart, and realizes that strange man she saw on that first night that she met Collei might actually be linked to what happened. So after that meeting and after storming out angrily, Kaya devises a plan with Diluc, which, you know, surprise, surprise, as much as they like to pretend that they hate each other, they were brothers and they still are brothers, and they help each other out. So Kaya and Diluc devise this plan to get the answers out of Krupp, only to be thwarted by Dottore. So, as I said, I think in my original video, I'm not a spoiler-free channel, so big spoilers to, like, you know, Sumeru's story quest. But essentially, I think that's one of Dottore's segments in Mondstat. I don't think that's the actual Il Dottore. And this is like a rare glimpse we get to see of perhaps a younger Dottore. Not only like physically, because the story takes place before the events in Mondstat, but also a segment from a younger time where Dottore wasn't nearly, you know, the same man that he is today. Then we meet him in Sumeru, if that's actually Dottore that we meet in Sumeru and not a segment of his. But I mean, I guess technically it is Dottore no matter how you slice it, but like they are technically different people because they're different clones from different periods in his life. Sorry, I was like, my throat's very dry. So we meet Dottore's segment in Mondstat, and he kind of like storms off at the end of that conversation with Kaya, Seamus, and Diluc, because they're not budging on this idea of giving them any kits for recruitment. Air quotes, recruitment. And so he's like, "You've disappointed me again, Krupp. You better fix this." And so, you know, Krupp stays behind because he's like, you know what, I'm here, might as well enjoy this party, because Diluc is throwing a party at the Diluc Manor, question mark, which I'm gonna assume is their father's manor before Diluc ends up selling it off, as we get confirmation slash, you know, get informed about in Venti's character quest, when Kaya and Diluc are having drinks at the Angel Share, and Kaya like jabs at Diluc about selling their father's manor after he returned to Mondstat. So
Ad Astra Abyssosk. Welcome to
you know,
the Adventurers Guild.
Kaya approaches him and startles him, but then is like, "Hey, how about, you know, I sweeten this deal and we get something going for, you know, not only for you, but like for us in Mondstat, so we have, you know, an equal exchange here." And Krupp's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. We've provided you with so much. Why would you get anything from us? And why, you know, why wouldn't you be the only people giving things? We're the great and powerful Fatui from Shnesaya. How dare?" But, you know, some vintage wine from the Dawn Winery is involved. How could any man such as sophisticated and refined as Krupp deny the nice wine of the Dawn Winery? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out here. Krupp was a little bit greedy about this vintage wine. And so, in the wine cellar, Diluc, as the Dark Knight hero, with his mask on and everything, cornered Krupp and tried to get the answers out of him. Using what we, as like a group of people that are fans of the game, the fandom. Oh god. Do I know how to sentence structure? Absolutely not. Anyway. We would call delusion, and he uses that delusion to create purple chain or shadow chains, black chains. I forgot how they described it exactly, but magical chains to, you know, kind of trap Krupp and be like, "Hey, I need you to tell me the truth, or else they are remember that kid Anthony, And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, mysterious stranger that I just talked to a few minutes ago, but I don't know it's you. And he looks like, why don't you think about that a little bit harder? Do you remember Anthony? He's like, ah, yes, that young kid. Basically admitting to the fact that he knew what had happened to Anthony, but wasn't giving, kind of like the details. He's just kind of like, ah, yes, they're being used by my master Dottore for some nefarious things that I won't tell you about. Until Diluc is like, I'm gonna kill you. And he's like, okay, maybe I'll tell you. And then ends up getting cut off by Dottore, who has some magical weapons that he just kills Croup with, and that's it. You don't get to know what happened. He's gone. And you're left to wonder what he was going to tell Diluc. Because Dottore is like, haha, what a useless dog that is, Mr. Croup, or whatever. And what's interesting about this is that at this time, like, I don't know if it's that he hadn't named the delusions yet, or, it was something that Dottore had not yet interacted with, but I don't think that's possible. Because, if you know what happened in Scaramouche's Archon Quest, Dottore's been around for, like, 300 plus years. He's old as shit. But, he calls the thing that Diluc has on his glove, which, we should at this, like, most people at this point should know that we consider it delusion as a fandom collectively. But Dottore calls it a vision, in quotes. And as he's running away, or as he's leaving, maniacally laughing, talking to himself about how people with visions think that they can be like gods. Oh, they think they're so much better than us. Oh, haha, those fools. But that vision, and I quote, that vision is as pure and brilliant as my mind. There is no parallel. Which I think is the quote 100%, but it could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the quote from my memory. But basically, I just think it's a little interesting tidbit because we have been calling it a delusion, and there's a potential that it could be something else entirely. Just some food for thought, because I have no proof as to what it actually is. Genshin as a game has not yet touched it. And we don't know if they will anytime soon. I may be waiting for like 20 years to learn about what that thing actually is. Unfortunately. But, shrug, I guess. They do what they want over there at Hoyoverse. But, they've been... Dottore has been, at this point leaves the city. And this is before, the diplomats leave on Dottore's orders because he's like, that city has nothing for me, they won't give me anything. So it's a flop, Croup's a flop, and I'm gonna get the fuck out of here because I'm bored. Only for him to, take Croup's body, I'm assuming, at some point, whether it was, on the transport that left the city or not is, not shown, but takes Croup's remains and turns them into a robot. Man full on said, you failed me, now be a successful experiment. He said, I really don't care who you were or what you were. Now you're my new plaything, and since you failed me, this is what you get. Don't disappoint me again.
Here you go.
And that's where we meet back up. That's where we catch back up to what Amber's doing. So Amber ran off to look for Dottore, not knowing who he was, not knowing why he was in Mondstat or where he was going. Only to find a Hilly-Churl encampment that she thinks is just Hilly-Churls, and so she fends them off with a bunch of rocks and knocks them out. Only for her to find a Fatui device a little bird with a Fatui symbol on it hanging out. And she's like, huh, for some reason, this is like a little bit suspicious. I will take it back because that's my clue. That's how we solve who started the fire. Because the smell is the same as at the scene. And, the thing is, that's one of Dotori's devices that he's using to lure the robot Croup to do things, to destroy things. Or at the very least, is one of Dotori's instruments that for some reason Croup Bot is attracted to. Takes that as something that he should be following. Because when Amber tries to run away with it, he continues to follow. And even with Jean's intervention, he keeps following her. So, I think what ends up happening is they end up losing it because of the struggle. It gets destroyed, and Amber's evidence, for the most part, is in pieces. Anyway, so we rejoin Collei, who's leaving the library since Lisa has left at this point and has gone to see Diluc to ask him questions herself. You know, for Jean, sort of looking for clues as to what caused the black fire. This is where we learn about Diluc's father's passing.
Right here.
And then, you know, we also learn that Amber knows a little bit of something about that too, because Amber was actually in the room when Diluc had a conversation with the former, I think it was the former Grandmaster, who fabricated the story about the Fatui being the hero, instead of Diluc's father, who's the one who traced off the mysterious Urza the Drake. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. Collei happens to run into Kaya, but is saved by Amber coming back at the right time, which keeps him from needling the child too much. As, you know, Kaya does what he wants, as we're all aware, and sort of causes trouble as he goes. After that, Jean and Lisa join up with them, and they cut to, like, Collei and Amber chasing down the metal birds, like the one that Amber had found, that was attracting the Croup Bot. And it turns out they're all over Mondstat. They found numerous amounts, the two of them, going around Mondstat looking for evidence that the Fatui's meddling is involved in the Black Fire incident. Because as much as the Fatui want answers from the people of Mondstat, the people of Mondstat, in particular, you know, the Knights of Favonius, want answers from them. How was it that their people were targeted? Why were they targeted, and why were they killed while the Black Fire did nothing to destroy any of the documents that were with them? And what documents it did destroy, it was partial and not completely. We end up learning from this a little bit later that it's because Collei has been injected with Archon residue. We learned this from Sino. This is Sino's first appearance in the Genshin series, and he is, called in by Lisa, who says, "Oh, I have friends at the academia. Let me send a letter to my old professor and ask him for help." To which her professor sends Sino. Sino knows what's going on, basically, because all the messages and stuff on those papers that they couldn't read originally have been decoded. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I completely missed, like, this big portion in between that. So, this is why I should write a script, and this is why I was writing a script. But I didn't finish, and 3.5 starts in a couple hours. So, no time like the present, right?
Emerge right now.
So in between all this, you know, after they find all the metal birds, Amber decides to show Collei what Ludi Harpastum is all about, and takes her to, you know, the Ludi Harpastum ceremony, which is one of Mondstat's, or festival rather, which is one of Mondstat's many like festivals celebrating the Animo Archon of Barbados. Because of how much he loves and cares for his people. And Amber states that as Collei is like, you guys celebrate your Archon, but does your Archon even care? And of course Amber's like, how dare you? He does, of course he cares about us. And Collei's like, yeah, whatever. You have a vision, you can say that. You know, completely ignoring what Amber has to say, brushing it off as like, yeah, of course you have nice things to say about him.
What do you want from
me?
me?
You have a vision. And, you know, just kind of showing us more of how, like, Collei feels abandoned by the world at large, you know? Because she didn't have a very good childhood. As stated before, like, she was given to the Fatui, essentially. Or a man who worked for the Fatui that she didn't know but promised to heal her, so her parents trusted him without asking enough questions. So she's not used to like anybody being, you know, being caring or actually considering what they're doing and if they're putting her in harm's way in any capacity. Because in this case they put her in a lot of harm's way, as essentially they gave her to the worst people that you could have given a child to. But so, you know, Collei has a lot of learning to do, and Amber's aware of this, but Amber being Amber is like, I'm gonna brute force this and make her my best friend. Which somehow kind of works. It was like after the whole, you know, after that, after Collei sees how much fun she's having and how kind everybody is in Mondstat, and how, you know, people live so free and they don't really worry about their safety, you know, because they're safe here in Mondstat. Their god protects them, the knights protect them, like, they don't have to fear what could happen. Collei starts to feel safe, only to immediately have that safety betrayed by a certain Kaya Albrecht of the Knights of Favonius, who can't stop being a little shit. Disclaimer, Kaya is one of my favorite characters, and you know, him inheriting that eye patch from his grandfather, I think is the funniest thing any character in Genshin has said. Except for maybe, you know, when Max Middleton does some ad-libbing on Ito. But besides the point. Kaya, being Kaya, you know, lies to Amber and to get her away from Collei, and then lies to Collei to get Collei to follow him, because he somehow knows it's her. And it mostly is because he saw her at the beginning, you know, running away from the scene of the crime. So he kind of put two and two together when he saw her again at the library and asked for her name. Before Amber, you know, stopped him from harassing her friend, her new friend. So Kaya, being, you know, Kaya, decides to pick a fight with Collei, and because he thinks, oh, I'm gonna expose her for the criminal that she is. And so he starts this fight with her, only to find out that Collei's actually not really in control of her powers. The powers are an entity of their own. This black flame, this snake of black flame, is an entity of its own. And at the end of that fight, when he's so ready to be like, ha, I've got you, you know, Amber will see what you are, because Amber shows up at the end. Amber, instead of taking Kaya's side and being like, wow, she's a monster, kind of like blows him away, essentially, as Collei regains herself and is like, please just like end this for me, because I'm doing horrible things and I can't control it, you know. And then of course, you know, after Amber takes her away, he runs away and is like, I got you, Collei, we're good, we're safe. Collei's like, I'm evil, and Amber's like, you're full of it, I don't believe you. And so then, after that, they meet up with Sino, and that's when they learn about the Archon residue. And like Sino is like, "I'll help you, but like it's active at night, so I'm not going to help you till tomorrow morning." And of course, in the very stubborn, cold way that he does, because it's Sino. Sino's pretty deadpan, but like he's got good intentions. He's a good boy. Pat him on his little dog head. Good boy, Sino. Anyway, so they of course have this plan now to meet up with Sino at Star Statch Cliff the next day, not knowing that this new mysterious man that works for Il Del Torre is in Mondstat and looking for Collei specifically, because he knows what her deal is, and he knows that she's there based on the report that they got from Mondstat about the incident that involved, the two diplomats who didn't make it. Because, of course, Dottore really didn't care. But everybody in the Fatui has their own agenda. So, of course somebody else was like, oh, that's where the experiment went. Let me go find it. And by the experiment, basically they mean Collei. So, Amber not only helps her through getting through the process of getting help from Sino, which basically all Sino can really do is lock it away. And unfortunately, if that creature reemerges, it'll take her over completely. But Collei is like, I don't care. I need it to be gone because it hurts people, and I don't want to hurt people. And so they do what they can for her.
This weather?
It is at this point that Kaya does call what Diluc has a delusion. In their little meeting where they devise a plan on how to get back at the Fatui for, having a hand in the death of the two diplomats without them having any ability to point out that, like, hey, what you did is the reason why these people are dead. So Diluc and Kaya, doing their own thing because the two of them are, funny little guys, funny little boys, funny little bros. End up devising a plan to pretend arrest Diluc as the Dark Knight hero and blame him for what happened to the diplomats because of the delusion that he has in his possession, while Collei and Amber with Sino deal with getting that thing under control so that Collei no longer has to deal with it. And in the end, basically, Diluc gets away, obviously, because he's like, oh, peace, I'm smarter than the Knights of Avonius, because, they're useless. And Collei ends up staying in Mondstat just a little bit longer before she ends up asking Sino if she can go back to Sumeru with him because that's where she's from. And, Sino takes her back. She leaves without saying goodbye to Amber formally, but she has Lisa help her write a letter to thank Amber for all that she's done. And, she wants to go to Sumeru to learn, and she'll, she wants to come back and see Amber, but, like, she's like, I got some growing up to do, basically. And it's just so sweet. So I'm really happy that, like, Collei is able to come back to Mondstat in 3.5 as part of the new Windbloom Festival. I'm really excited to see, what they talk about, or if we get to see what they talk about at all. And, how much she's grown since she first came to Mondstat when she was a scared little kid. Because Amber is her hero. She wanted to become an archer because of Amber. She wanted to, help people because of Amber. Amber really changed her life and changed her perspective. Because if not for Amber and the kindness that was shown to her in Mondstat, Collei would have been, would have hated people forever. She would have been afraid of everyone forever. So, this like coming full circle and her coming back to Mondstat with like kind of like her new guardians, essentially, like Sino and Tainari, who took such care of her while she's been in Sumeru again. It's gonna be like, it's gonna mean a lot for her. And I just hope that we get to see it, because I'm very, very happy that they're doing this and kind of coming back with the storyline that they had laid down in the webtoon. I just love the story of Genshin. I don't know what to tell you. But if you've gotten this far, thank you for listening to me ramble, because I decided to YOLO it and like not finish my script. Hopefully next time I will have a script and it will be finished. Because I'm hoping to talk about Vanessa's portion of the webtoon, as well as talk about Diluc and Kaya in the webtoon and what we've seen up to this point with the two of them. Because I'm not gonna lie, Kaya and Diluc are like my favorite characters in Genshin Impact, besides, you know, this man right in front of me, Al Hatham, and Tartaglia, and Zhongli, and Hayato. And Baiju. Baiju's coming out in 3.6. I hope you guys can't wait to listen to me say nothing except for how much I love Baiju for the rest of eternity now. Because I swear to you, if I don't get him, I will cry. But thank you for coming and seeing watching this video. Listening to me for like the last, I don't know, half hour or so, probably closer to an hour, ramble about Collei and her first trip in Mondstat. And I hope that not only do I have something better scripted next time, but I have it in a more timely manner than me doing it night before 3.5 drops, because I'm so excited. So I hope you guys like this video, and I'll catch you next time. I just once again want to thank you guys for watching and dealing with my rambling. If you like this style of video instead of a nice, clean, squeaky, polished, you know, video edited and everything with a script, let me know in the comments. If you didn't like it, be nice, please. I have feelings. I'm emotional trash can. Thank you for all the comments you do leave, if you leave any. And I hope to actually have a little bit more of a squeaky clean polished video next time. Don't forget, if you like my content, to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you know when I upload next, and leave me a thumbs up on this video. If you didn't like it, cool, don't subscribe. I'm fine with that. I don't need your negativity. This is a trash can, not a trash can't community, alright? I'll see you next time. Keep it trashy.